I don't know. So I don't know how my brain kind of got its head around it. I knew that I'd have to face it, but I just refused to for years because I just needed to get myself physically stronger.
Mm,
I just so I have like so I had a subarachnoid hemorrhage, brain bleed, and brain bruising that gives me constant fatigue. So like I need a wheelchair for distance, but I just wanted to get a little bit stronger. And then
mm,
eventually I stopped dealing with that, and then it started to come out in mental illness. But like while it was the most horrific thing I've ever mentally experienced, I'm still really glad that I kind of did it all in one go rather than being tortured for the rest of my
sure.
life. Like yeah, I think I knew deep down that like I just needed this massive explosion, and then it just took over and did. And I just because it's painful to watch when you see people in the world and all the time. People are just in conversation will be like it'll be negative. They'll have little things that are upsetting them. They'll be chatting. They'll be down about something or other most of the time. Not always. There's sometimes
Mhm.
little bits, but it's just really painful to be around because people just don't, for whatever reason, whether it's because work's too much or whether because we're not really taught, but people don't face what's wrong inside them very often. And that's part of the reason why I'm trained to be a counselor. I just
Mm.
want to, and I'm writing a book about it. I just want to reach people and just to be like, yeah, so like,
Well,
mhm,
I was going to say, and I think I know the answer to this, but in the spirit of the show, I'm going to explore it just because it comes up so often.
mhm.
What you just said, that people don't want to face the pain and the things they're dealing with. There has to be a logic to that. And I think there is, right? That you and I can appreciate. It might not be like a big L logic, but there's a logic of it's going to cause me a lot of pain to face that. And it seems better to not. Like, what?
Like,
Why do
like in
people buy
Kate,
into that? Yeah.
but like I always, whenever I'm like really trying to work out something about humans, your humanity, I always think back to like how it was in caveman times, and
Sure.
like if you have little struggles and stuff, you've still got to like carry on to keep surviving.
Mm. So that kind of carries through to today where we feel like I just got to get through the day. No sense
Well,
worrying about that.
I don't know, it's not everything, but that's partly how I
Yeah,
understand it. Like
yeah, yeah.
if you let yourself worry about something and get really sad, like in caveman times, early times, you'd die,
You
you'd
die.
get
Yeah.
attacked and you'd die. And that's not I never really fully like I think back to caveman times to try to understand humans a lot, but still we are able to overcome a lot of the struggles that we were kind of inherently born with.
Yeah. I keep coming back to this theme on this show and in general that the term evolution is what I often use, and I think there's some literal piece of that. Maybe some of it's metaphorical, but exactly what you're saying. It's almost like you're seeing the evolutionary process play out, and we're in, however long the period takes for us to actually evolve to that next level. That next level being truly transitioning from the way our minds worked as cavemen to what it is today, given how sophisticated we are intellectually in our consciousness. That transition, that seems to be so much of the pain and struggles that people have, is that old hardware and wiring that still applies in a time in which it's no longer applicable. And we literally need to evolve to a new form to be able to switch and say, okay, we're letting all that go. That's no longer, some of it's still useful, but the parts that aren't, we're moving past that. And that's going to become the kind of the adaptive trait that allows us to move forward. And, some people call that an awakening, or I've heard, I'm not too familiar with, like, the age of Aquarius. I don't know, but it does seem like there's some, whatever you want to call it, there's some truth to it where it would benefit us greatly to transition to that point where we move past that. But it takes time. It just doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, I read somewhere the other day that there because I read quite a lot of Buddhist texts. I really
Mm,
like Buddhism overlaps with philosophy for what
sure.
it's how it kind of started. It's just it feels like, listen to your body and be true to yourself. And it's just like don't hurt people. They seem quite good rules. But one of the things was that he was saying why does people spend so much time, questioning why we're here or where we came from or what's the meaning of life and what's the point of all this when really we have so much to deal with already? Why don't we just focus on ourselves and get ourselves okay
Mm,
rather than worrying about why or
mm,
like what the purpose is or how we fit into the world? Work on get yourself into a better headspace. I've been doing it for years and years and I can feel the benefits, but it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of consistency. You
mm,
have to repeatedly choose yourself and put your mental health first and repeatedly look at all the things that don't work for you and watch how you make choices. And everyone gets decision fatigue, and you've got to make active choice. Think about why you're doing things every single second of the day.
Mhm.
Really, it's a lot of work, but it's so freeing. I mean, I haven't reached enlightenment, but I feel a lot like people, like a lot more spiritual. I feel a lot happier. I
Yeah.
just feel like free of the constraints that everyone else, not everyone else, but a lot of people just don't haven't they haven't sat down and said, okay, I don't feel good today. What can I do about it?
Yes. Well, I think you're articulating that evolutionary process too, quite literally, right? Maybe not
Mm,
in the term of evolution, but you're explaining it beautifully as to why it is hard and it is a like it is, it's every day. It's that old wiring, that caveman mentality, whatever you want to call it, the way the mind's set up, that is constantly pulling us back to do the opposite of what you're suggesting. It's a constant force pulling us away from it. And you have to actively and deliberately every day be like, nope, nope, I'm going to pull myself back this way. And hopefully eventually we evolve as humans to where that becomes the natural state. But you're doing that work, you could argue, to create that evolution to move us towards that.
I feel like when you're born, and children kind of are like that.
Yeah.
Children kind of, they know what hurts them, they know what doesn't, well, they figure it out as they grow up. And then we lose that as
Mm.
you grow older and grow this intelligence, and then it's not even, I don't know, I think it's mainly lost because of how difficult it is to interact with other people. You can stay true to yourself and look after yourself and make sure it's fine, but you cannot get on with everyone in the world, and you're going to struggle and feel crap because people are mean and
Because they
like, and
struggle and feel crap. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So, but I think that I feel like, but children are born with it. You can see it. They're just so excited about life. Like, just everything's beautiful and wonderful. And then it gets harder as you get older. I
yeah.
feel like, yeah.
There's a story I'll tell about my son, which I think is an example of exactly what you're saying. So he's 8 years old. He's in summer camp. The summer camp has kids from like 4 to 16, I think. So it's a pretty wide range. And every year, every week, they do a theme. And last week or the week before, the theme was like Disney characters and all that stuff. And on one of the days, the theme was, there's a calendar, dress like your favorite Disney character or villain or, whatever it is. And he loves villains and he's been into Marvel movies lately. So he has a Loki. If you're familiar with Loki from the Marvel movies, he's Thor's brother. He has a costume, like a full on costume, like the headpiece, the cape, the thing, the whole thing, like a staff. And for him, exactly as you're articulating, he's still a young kid. It was like, this is awesome. I get to dress up like this character. I love dressing up like him anyway. He loves being kind of like theatrical and all that stuff, and he loved it. All great. So we were driving to camp. We pulled up at camp, and literally you could see exactly what you're articulating start to shift. He started to look out the window and see some people weren't dressed up, and this fear started to overtake him of like, Dad, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can go in with this. And he took the headpiece off, and he started getting concerned, and like the heartbreak I had, because it's exactly what you're saying, and I know it's life, but like watching those little signs of that transition to where you start to lose that childhood innocence of like, I'm just going to be me and it's beautiful. That's such a tough thing. And I understood it. I empathized. And it was a tough spot because part of me said, like, I hear you. Like, he's afraid he's going to go in there and people are going to laugh at him and make fun of him because he's dressed up. But at the same time, he really likes it and he wants to do it. And that's it, right? That's the life you're speaking of, what makes it so hard.